Few stories in human history echo with the majesty and mystery of the biblical account of the Red Sea's parting. In the book of Exodus, this phenomenon is not merely a narrative of escape, but an unparalleled testament to faith, deliverance, and divine power. How can an event so ancient still resonate with profound relevance today? In this tale of epic proportions, Moses emerges as both prophet and leader, guiding his people through despair into deliverance. Yet beyond the awe-inspiring imagery of waters dividing and Pharaoh's chariots vanishing beneath the waves, what secrets does this story hold? What lessons can it impart to a world still yearning for freedom, hope, and justice? The Exodus phenomenon, unveiling the Red Sea mystery, seeks to uncover these hidden truths, peeling back layers of symbolism and uncovering eternal wisdom that challenges, inspires, and transforms. What obstacles today require us to stretch forth the staff of faith? Join us as we traverse the sands of time to explore a story that is as much about humanity as it is about the divine. Moses, a figure born in peril but destined for greatness, stands at the crossroads of divine purpose and human frailty. In the shadow of Pharaoh's decree, his infant cries floated on the Nile, cradled by providence and carried into the arms of Pharaoh's daughter. Raised amidst the grandeur of Egypt, yet tethered to his Hebrew heritage, Moses' life became a tapestry of duality. In his youth, indignation flared into action when he struck down an Egyptian oppressor. Exiled and humbled in the wilderness, he encountered the burning bush, a moment where mortality met the eternal. There, God called him to liberate his people, a task fraught with trials, plagues, and confrontation. Yet Moses' unwavering faith transformed him into a shepherd of souls, a voice of divine authority, and a mediator between heaven and earth. What compels a man to face Pharaoh's wrath with nothing but a staff and a promise? And in moments of doubt, where do we find the courage to answer the burning call within our own hearts? The Red Sea's parting remains a scene of unparalleled wonder, a divine crescendo where heaven's power touched earth's fragility. As the Israelites found themselves ensnared, the sea loomed vast and impenetrable, an unyielding barrier to freedom. Behind them, the chariots of Pharaoh thundered like a storm, their wheels grinding with the weight of oppression. Panic swept through the camp, voices trembling with the anguish of a people on the brink of despair. Yet, amid the chaos, Moses stood resolute, his countenance alight with a certainty born not of his strength, but of the Almighty's promise. "Fear not," he declared, his voice cutting through the din like a clarion call. "Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will accomplish for you today." In his words, an unshakable truth echoed, that deliverance was not the work of human hands, but the divine hand that moves all things. Obeying the voice of God, Moses stretched forth his staff over the waters. In that instant, the sea trembled, its vast expanse bending to the will of its creator. The winds rose, fierce and unrelenting, parting the waters as though an invisible architect carved a path through the deep. Walls of water stood upright, glistening like towering glass, while the seabed emerged, dry and firm beneath the feet of those called to freedom. With trepidation, the Israelites stepped forward, each step a defiance of doubt, a triumph of faith over fear.
The journey across was no mere escape. It was a holy procession, a passage from bondage into the promise of liberation. Behind them, Pharaoh's army surged, their hearts hardened against the warning of plagues, their fate sealed by their defiance of the divine.
As the last of God's people reached safety, Moses once more obeyed the command of heaven. He stretched his hand over the sea, and the walls of water, obedient to their maker, thundered back into place. The chariots and horsemen, who moments before pursued with reckless arrogance, were engulfed, their cries swallowed by the depths. Justice had spoken, mighty and irrevocable. The shores of the Red Sea bore witness to the triumph of God's deliverance. Songs erupted from the people, a chorus of thanksgiving rising like incense to the heavens. "Who is like you, O Lord, among the gods?" they sang. "Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in glorious deeds, doing wonders?" This narrative, etched into the soul of humanity, asks a question that reverberates across time and space. When the waters rise before you, vast and unyielding, will you trust in the unseen hand that bids you step forward? The parting of the Red Sea is far more than a miraculous escape. It is a celestial symphony, orchestrated by the hand of the Almighty, resonating with profound spiritual truths that speak to the heart of humanity's journey. As the waters yielded to divine command, they revealed a tapestry woven with eternal wisdom, each thread shimmering with symbolism that invites us to delve deeper into its mysteries. The pillar of cloud by day and fire by night stands as a luminous emblem of God's unceasing presence, a beacon guiding his people through the wilderness of uncertainty. Like a sentinel of the heavens, it bore witness to their struggles and victories, illuminating their path when all seemed shrouded in darkness. How often do we, like the Israelites, fail to see the pillars in our own lives, the quiet assurances of divine guidance that light our way when shadows loom large? The waters of the Red Sea, vast and unyielding, rise as a metaphor for the trials that confront the human spirit. They embody the chasms of despair and the torrents of fear that threaten to engulf us. Yet as Moses lifted his staff and the winds obeyed, the sea became a passageway of deliverance, its depths transformed into a holy highway. Early theologians likened this crossing to the sacrament of baptism, a sacred transition from death to life, bondage to freedom. It compels us to ponder. What seas must we traverse to shed the chains of our past and step into the boundless promise of renewal? Each step upon the seabed required faith, a faith that defied sight, a trust that transcended fear. The Israelites' hesitant yet resolute footsteps echo the pilgrimage of every soul that dares to trust in the unseen. The walls of water, towering like crystalline sentinels, proclaim the majesty of a creator who commands chaos to yield to order, despair to bow to hope. It is this same faith that calls to us across the ages, bidding us to walk forward when the path seems impossible, to trust that the unseen hand of God works mightily in the depths. The Red Sea's parting also reveals the justice of the Almighty, swift and irrevocable. Pharaoh's chariots, symbols of earthly power and oppression, were swallowed by the returning waters. This moment stands as an eternal reminder that no force can stand against divine righteousness. The sea that opened to liberate the oppressed became the grave of their oppressors, and in its depths, the mighty were humbled. How often do we witness such reversals in our own lives, where justice flows like a river, unrelenting and true? This narrative, rich with divine orchestration, whispers to every heart that dares to listen. It challenges us to see beyond the natural, to discern the spiritual currents shaping our lives. What are the seas before you, deep and daunting, that God beckons you to cross? And when the path appears, will you have the courage to step forward, trusting in the eternal hand that parts the waters of your life? What is the foundation of courage in the face of overwhelming fear? As the Israelites trembled on the shores of the Red Sea, hemmed in by the thunder of Pharaoh's chariots and the impenetrable waters before them, they faced a question that resonates through the ages. Will you stand firm when fear seeks to unravel you? The command of Moses, "Stand firm," echoes as a clarion call, urging us to confront the storms of life with unyielding trust in a power greater than ourselves. The triumph of faith over fear is not merely an ancient tale, but a timeless mandate, a reminder that deliverance begins with stillness, where the human soul surrenders to divine providence. What does true leadership demand? In the face of rebellion, despair, and the unknown, Moses' example burns brightly, like the bush that first called him to his destiny. He did not lead with grandeur, but with humility, rooted in obedience to a higher purpose. His courage was not born of self-assurance, but of an unwavering trust in the promises of God. Moses teaches us that leadership requires the willingness to stand alone, to carry the weight of others' doubts, and to step forward when the path is uncertain. In our own lives, what storms call us to lead with steadfastness and vision? How can we emulate Moses' quiet strength when the voices of doubt threaten to drown out the call to greatness? What is the nature of justice in a world so often marred by oppression? Pharaoh's defeat beneath the waves reveals a profound truth. No power, no matter how mighty, can stand against the will of the Almighty. The Red Sea's closing is not a moment of vengeance, but of divine justice, swift, irrevocable, and true. It declares that oppression will not endure and that righteousness will rise as surely as the sun. In a time when injustice pervades nations and hearts alike, the story reminds us to trust in the ultimate triumph of divine justice. Do we have the patience to wait, the courage to hope, and the faith to believe that the chariots of oppression will one day fall beneath the waves of God's righteousness? What seas rise before you, demanding the courage to step forward? The Red Sea is not merely an ancient body of water, but a symbol of every trial that looms before the human soul. It challenges us to see barriers not as endings, but as beginnings, to trust that the winds of heaven can carve a path through the impossible. Each step the Israelites took upon the seabed was an act of defiance against doubt, a proclamation of faith in the unseen. How often do we falter at the edge of our own Red Sea, paralyzed by fear when deliverance lies just beyond a single step of faith? This chapter whispers truths as eternal as the stars. It bids us stand firm, lead with courage, trust in divine justice, and walk forward when the waters rise. The lessons of the Red Sea call us to live boldly, anchored in the assurance that the same hand that parted the waters then is the hand that guides us now. Will you trust it? What seas of doubt rise before you, bidding you to falter at the shores of your own potential? Like the Israelites hemmed in by waves and war chariots, we too face moments when the tides of fear and uncertainty crash against the shores of our faith. Can you hear the voice of eternity calling out amidst the roar, saying, "Go forward"? It is in these moments that the divine beckons, not with promises of ease, but with the assurance of presence. Step boldly, for the waters will not part until your foot meets the waves. What barriers, vast as the Red Sea, stand between you and the life to which you are called? In the wilderness of this world, the journey is fraught with obstacles that loom as insurmountable as the walls of water that once held Israel captive. Yet, are these obstacles truly barriers, or are they invitations, opportunities to witness the mighty hand of God at work? In trusting the unseen, you will find that what appeared as a dead end is but a threshold to divine transformation. The sea itself will bow to the winds of heaven, revealing a path where none seemed possible. What fears hold you captive, whispering that the chariots behind you are stronger than the promise before you? In the stillness of surrender lies the secret to victory. The voice that stilled the storm commands you to stand firm. Do not waver, for the armies of oppression, no matter how formidable, crumble before the justice of the Almighty. Trust not in the strength of your own hand, but in the sovereignty of the one who parts seas and brings empires to their knees. What might you achieve if fear no longer held your heart in chains? Will you lead when the call to greatness burns within your soul? As Moses faced rebellion and despair, he did not shrink back but stepped forward, guided by a purpose higher than himself. The world today cries out for leaders who will stand in the gap, who will shepherd with humility and vision. Do you hear the call? Will you rise to lead with a faith that moves mountains and a courage that inspires generations? The staff of faith lies within your grasp. Will you stretch it forth? The Exodus phenomenon speaks not only of a miraculous past, but of an enduring present. It is a summons to live boldly, to face life's seas and storms with unshakable trust. Subscribe to our channel, Remarkable Bible Stories, to explore these timeless truths that shape our world and transform our hearts. Share your reflections in the comments below. We would love to hear the lessons you have drawn from your own journey through life's Red Seas. Let us walk together in faith, courage, and hope, parting the waters of impossibility and stepping into the boundless promise of a brighter tomorrow. What is it that draws humanity to the waters of the Red Sea, to this eternal threshold where fear and faith collide? Is it the awe of a divine hand parting the impossible, or the whisper of a truth deeper than the sea itself? That deliverance is not only God's gift, but His call to trust beyond sight. The parting of the Red Sea is more than a story etched in ancient scrolls. It is a mirror held to the human soul. When the tides of life rise against us and the shores of safety seem unreachable, do we dare to step forward into the unknown, trusting that the same hand that shaped the waters still guides us today? like the Israelites, we are called not to shrink back in fear, but to march forward in faith, knowing that the path of deliverance is carved through the waves of our obedience. This moment at the sea's edge, this miraculous intersection of heaven and earth, proclaims the supremacy of a justice that none can thwart. It testifies that no power, no pharaoh of this world, can stand against the will of the Almighty. The closing waters that silence the oppressors speak of a divine order where righteousness prevails and evil is swallowed whole. It calls us to trust in a justice that flows not from human hands, but from the throne of God, unyielding and eternal. In a world longing for hope, this story reminds us that oppression, no matter how mighty, will one day bow before the tide of divine mercy and truth. But why does this narrative endure, searing itself into the fabric of human history? The Exodus phenomenon, unveiling the Red Sea mystery, is not simply a tale of ancient deliverance. It is the story of every heart yearning for freedom. It reveals that the Red Sea is not a place, but a journey, one we all must take when faced with the chasms of fear, the barriers of doubt, and the trials that threaten to break us. In its waters, we see the reflection of our own lives, where faith becomes the bridge between bondage and liberation. The mystery of the Red Sea lies not only in its parting, but in its invitation to walk through, to trust in the unseen, and to believe that the impossible is but the stage for God's glory. It is here, in this crossing, that we find the essence of faith, not in the absence of struggle, but in the presence of a power greater than any storm. And so, the story ends with a question that cannot remain unanswered. When you stand at the shores of your own Red Sea, will you trust the voice that bids you go forward, knowing that the path of deliverance lies just beyond the step of faith? Moses' life is a symphony of divine orchestration, a narrative where mortal frailty meets the boundless power of providence. Born under the shadow of Pharaoh's decree, his cries echoed above the waters of the Nile, a river that became both his refuge and his first deliverance. Drawn from the reeds by the daughter of the oppressor, Moses grew amidst the grandeur of Egypt, schooled in its wisdom, yet tethered by an invisible thread to his Hebrew heritage. His heart burned with indignation at the plight of his people, his hands striking in youthful zeal, only to flee into the wilderness where humility would forge his soul into the instrument of divine purpose. At the burning bush, a flame unconsumed spoke his name, a call that pierced his excuses and ignited his destiny. Trembling yet obedient, Moses became the mouthpiece of God, his staff, an emblem of heaven's authority, wielded against Pharaoh's hardened heart. Before the might of Egypt's gods, the shepherd of Midian stood resolute, and through him, plagues fell like thunderclaps, declaring the supremacy of the Almighty. In the face of rebellion and doubt, Moses bore the weight of intercession, standing between heaven and earth, his arms raised in supplication for a wayward people. Pharaoh, the oppressor cloaked in royal splendor, embodied the defiance of human pride against divine will. His chariots roared with the arrogance of power, his heart a fortress of stubbornness that the plagues could not breach. Yet beneath the waters of the Red Sea, Pharaoh and his army found their final judgment, swallowed by the justice of the one who humbles the mighty and exalts the oppressed. His downfall stands as an eternal warning. No throne can endure that rises in defiance of heaven. The Israelites, a people groaning under the weight of bondage, were chosen not for their strength, but for the promise made to their fathers. Fearful and faltering, they hesitated at the edge of the sea, their faith tested by the looming waters and the thunder of Pharaoh's approach. Yet, step by trembling step, they crossed through the path carved by divine hand, their deliverance sealed by the closing waves. Their song of triumph, "Who is like you, O Lord?" echoes as a testament to the faithfulness of God amid human frailty. Aaron, the eloquent companion of Moses, stood as the voice of reassurance and the bearer of the sacred. His hands kindled the first flames of the altar, and though he faltered before the golden calf, he found restoration in the shadow of the tabernacle's glory. Miriam, the prophetess, lifted her tambourine in victory, her song leading a nation's rejoicing as they beheld the destruction of their enemies. In this cast of characters, each life weaves a thread into the tapestry of redemption. They remind us that the call of God transcends human limitation, that deliverance is the work of divine mercy, and that every role, whether bold or trembling, serves the eternal purpose of the one who parts seas and guides his people to freedom.